Ever hear the expression, living at the office? It used to mean working a lot of hours. But what if you literally lived at the office? Not under a desk, but lived in the building where workers used to work.
I think what's going to happen, the glut of commercial office that's coming down the pike, I don't think anyone's got any concept of how much stock is actually going to be come available.
That's Richard Rubin, and he started converting old commercial buildings to affordable housing back in 2004, long before the pandemic redefined work from home. He lived in Johannesburg at the time and converted an old commercial building into the new Braamfontein Lofts in the city's downtown. Now he's stateside and looking to put his experience to use.
I didn't grow up with money, so I'm acutely aware of individuals who are in some level of transition. Most of us are in some aspirational aspect of our life, and housing is one of those quintessential ingredients that, in my mind, is a right, not a privilege. So, trainee nurses, trainee doctors, folks working in factories, folks working as servers, Uber drivers. A whole host of folks that are good, hardworking people that would probably want to be owning their own place or buying their own place, but there's all sorts of folks staying with us.
The whole concept is called adaptive reuse. Developers are trying to figure out how to keep their buildings profitable. City councils are wondering how barren downtowns will impact tax revenues, and plenty of people need affordable housing. Well, sounds like a chance to solve all three challenges, right?
There are whole floors of buildings now that are not going to be used because people are working from home. So no point in just letting that sit there. And there are a lot of people who are going to be able to work from home. That's going to free up a lot of commercial space, which can be converted to affordable housing to take some of the pressure off.
In New York and Los Angeles, proposals have been submitted to turn unused office space into affordable housing. The LA County Board of Supervisors has approved a proposal to develop an adaptive reuse strategy across the county. In New York, a state senator filed the Housing Our Neighbors with Dignity Act, which would allow for the purchase and conversion of office buildings and hotels. And the state's real estate board has proposed zoning changes to accommodate conversions.
Not all of them are going to be candidates for conversion. In fact, it'll be a limited set of buildings that can actually do this. But you want to offer that flexibility because you understand that it can stimulate economic development. And if you do it right, you do it with an incentive that requires an affordable housing component, you tick off a whole lot of public policy goals that we all agree are important for the city and the state.
Payman Lothy works for the Real Estate Board of New York. He says, take a look at the Garment District close to Penn Station in New York City for an example of what conversion can do. One of the best examples of adaptive reuse development could be downtown Cleveland's Euclid Avenue. 30-40 years ago, downtown Cleveland was still a major corporate center, but companies folded or moved. And until about 15 years ago, the area kind of felt apocalyptic.
And then we began to more aggressively market these buildings for conversion. And over a period of time, we've become very apt at that, very successful. And if you think about it, it's done a couple things for us. One, it's taking these beautiful buildings and using the credits as the underpinnings of that, we've been able to save the buildings. We've been able to adaptively reuse them. A lot of that inventory is housing-based. And by the way, again, 30 years ago, there was very little residential based in downtown Cleveland. Today, we have 20,000 people, which may not sound like a lot, depending on the city that you're in. But for us, that was a geometric increase of our residential base.
Joe Marinucci has led the effort. In 2019, he asked for a study of how the revitalization impacted housing. The results showed that while the redevelopment reinvigorated downtown Cleveland, the area still struggled with diversity, and that it needed a wider variety of price points. Marinucci was beginning to work on strategies to address these issues just as COVID hit. One thing that could help him, as time's gone on, buildings have aged, and that's made them eligible for tax credits they weren't eligible for, say, 5 years ago. And that has kept the whole wave of reuse projects going. It's almost always true that conversion moments happen when a city or state tax incentive is involved.
The fact we're able to blend that historical inventory and use it proactively puts us in a different position than, say, a Columbus or Indianapolis, who are, we always, we look at our competitive set. Those are two of the cities. Well, they've got, for them, they've got to build from the ground up for the most part, because they don't necessarily have that infrastructure. So for us, we think we're very proactive to say that this is a very doable strategy, and recognizing that again, as a community, investing in the embedded energy of a historic structure, if you think about it, is also a sustainability strategy.
It's still unclear how our new work-from-home culture will play out. Will most people return to the office, or will they keep work-from-homing, leaving a ton of empty office and hotel space? If it's the latter, the successes in Cleveland and Lower Manhattan back in the early 90s could be the solution to providing much-needed affordable housing.
Not every building is going to be a candidate for these sorts of conversions. There are physical limitations that would preclude a building from doing the full conversion. It would never make sense for that owner to do so. But there are buildings in which we have precedent, we have history going back to Lower Manhattan in the early 90s, where it does make sense. And you just want to provide flexibility so that if owners do decide that this is something that makes sense for them, they have that flexibility to make that change.
The TLDR here is basically Richard Rubin's niche is going mainstream. Interestingly, he didn't use tax credits to complete his conversions, which makes them a real example of the future possibilities for offices or hotels finding a second life. He's also prioritized projects in places you'd not necessarily expect, like Missouri, Alabama, and Columbus, Ohio. His thesis is that everywhere, not just the big cities, needs more housing and adaptive conversions, and this is a way to make it happen.
I've been beating this drum now for a hell of a long time. Everything's going to be reimagined just based on the last year and a half. And I mean, one hopes that this is the last, of its kind in our lifetime in terms of pandemics. But certainly real estate is forever going to change.